Hey everybody. All right, so this is my third Romeo and Juliet video. Today we're going to cover Act 1, Scene 1, or at least as far as we can get into it in about 20 minutes or so. I'm going to try to keep these videos at about 20 minutes. That way you can watch, if you watch one 20-minute video a day, you know, you're not doing too bad. So let's go ahead and get into this. So I am on my No Fear Shakespeare, which is, I'm going to link it to you so that you have it. So the play opens. We had our prologue where our chorus came out and explained what was going to happen during the play. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing we have, we're on a street, we're out in town, and in comes Samson and Gregory. They are two members of the House of Capulet. They're not important people, really, they're servants. And they walk in, they're wearing their swords, they've got bucklers, a little small shield, and they're talking to each other. Samson says, Gregory, on my word, will not carry coals. Gregory says, no, for then we should be colliers. Samson says, I mean, and we being collar, will draw. And Gregory says, I, while you live, draw your neck out of collar. So they're playing with wordplay here. The fact that we have three words that sound almost the exact same: colliers, collar, and collar. Samson, as we're reading over here, basically says, look, on my word, I swear, we'll not carry coals. We're not going to take their trash. We're not going to take their garbage. And Gregory says, no, for then we'd be colliers. We'd be garbage men if we took their trash. He's teasing it. Gregory's poking at Samson this entire time. Sam says, I mean, and if we be in collar, we'll draw. If they make us angry, we'll draw our swords. And Gregory says, I, while you live, draw your neck out of collar. He's like, maybe you should focus on pulling yourself out of trouble. Sam says, I strike quickly, being moved. He's like, I hit hard, I hit fast when I'm angry. Gregory says, but thou art not quickly moved to strike. He's like, yeah, you hit hard when you're angry, but it's kind of hard to make you angry. A dog of the house of Capulet, I'm sorry, a dog of the house of Montague moves me. So he's like, oh, one of these jerk Montagues, they'll make me angry. And Gregory says, to move is to stir, and to be valiant is to stand. Therefore, if thou art moved, thou runst away. So he's like, well, moving, you're saying that they're going to move you. Well, moving is when you get up and move. He's like, the only moving they're going to do is to make you scared and run away. A dog of that house shall move me to stand. I will take the wall of any man or maid of Montague's. So he's like, no, I'm going to stand. I'm going to take my stand. So much so that if one of them, even a man or a woman, is moving past me, I'm going to move toward the wall and I'm going to make them walk in the street or in the gutter. Gregory says, that shows thee a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall. He's like, well, then that means you're the weak one, because the weak ones are the ones pushed up against the wall. 'Tis true, and therefore women, being the weaker vessels, are ever thrust to the wall. Therefore I will push Montague's men from the wall and thrust their maids to the wall. So he's like, you know what? That's why the guys always push the girls up against the wall, because they're weak. So if I walk past the Montague, I'll push the Montague man into the street, and I'll push his woman up against the wall. Being kind of sexualized here. Gregory says, the quarrel is between our masters and us, their men. So he's like, don't bring the women into it. It's between our masters and us, the people that work for them. 'Tis all one. I'll show myself a tyrant. When I have fought the men, I will be civil with the maids. I will cut off their heads. The heads of the maids? I, the heads of the maids, or their maidenheads. Take that in what sense thou wilt. So, again, another kind of sexual joke here, but I'll get to it in a second. So Samson says, "'Tis all one. I'll show myself a tyrant." He's like, "I'll be a tyrant to them. I'll be harsh to them. When I fought the men, I'll be civil with the ladies. I'll be nice to the ladies. I'll cut off their heads." And Gregory says, "The heads of the maids?" And Samson says, "Aye, the heads of the maids, or their maidenheads." Now, a maidenhead, a lady's maidenhead, is her virginity. So he's like, "I'll cut off their heads, or I'll take their maidenhead, whichever way you want to take it." Gregory says they must take it in the sense that feel it. So he's like, don't say that you'll do whatever I feel or however I take it. It's the women that are going to be feeling it. Samson says, "Me they shall feel while I'm able to stand, and 'tis known I'm a pretty piece of flesh." So he's like, they'll feel me as long as I can stand. And you can take that as, as long as I'm able to stand up and do what I'm doing, or it's a man and he's talking about, unfortunately doing sexual things to a woman, however you want to take that. "'Tis well thou art not a fish. If thou hadst, thou'd been a poor John." So he's like, it's a good thing you're not a fish, because if you were, you'd be dried and shriveled. Making a joke about his manhood. So in come Abram and another serviceman. These are Montagues. "Draw thy tool. Here comes of the house of Montagues." So he's like, "Pull your sword. Here comes Montagues. My naked weapon is out. Quarrel. I will back thee." He's like, "I've got my sword out. Quarrel, start something. I've got your back." Gregory says, "How? Turn thy back and run?" He's like, "How are you going to back me up? To turn your back and run away?" Samson says, "Fear me not. Don't worry about me." Gregory says, "No, Mary, I fear thee." He's like, "Oh no, I'm worried about you. Let us take the law on our sides. Let them begin." He's like, "Don't start anything. Let them start it. That way, we're under the law. If we fight back and they start it, we're just fighting, we're protecting ourselves. It's defense. I will frown as I pass by and let them take that as they list." He's like, "I'm going to frown at them when they walk by, and they can take that however they want. Nay, as they dare, I will bite my thumb at them, which is a disgrace to them if they bear it." So he says, "I'm going to bite my thumb at. I'm going to make a rude gesture." He, kind of bites his thumb. We have like it says here, a sign of disrespect. Essentially, he's saying, no, when we walk by, I'm going to flip them off. I'm going to flip them the bird, and they can take that however they want. So he does it. He flips them off, essentially. And the Montague, "Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?" So he's like, "Did you just flip us off?" "I do bite my thumb, sir," Samson says. He's like, "No, I stuck my middle finger up in the air. I bit my thumb." Abram again asks, "Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?" And Samson kind of turns to Gregory and goes, "Is the law on our side if I say I?" He's like, "Are we covered? Is the law good if I say, yes, I did that?" And Gregory's like, no, he still has to start something. So Samson says, "No, sir. I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I do bite my thumb, sir." He's like, "No, I didn't flip you off. I might have stuck my middle finger up, but I didn't flip you off." And Gregory's kind of poking him from the back. He's like, "Do you quarrel, sir?" He's like, "Are you starting something?" He's like, "You ready to go?" Abram says, "Quarrel, sir? No, sir." He's like, "Start something?" No. Because the person that starts something is going to be on the wrong side of the law. Samson says, "But if you do, sir, I'm for you. I serve as good a man as you. So he's like, if you're going to start something, I'm your man. I'm right there. I'll answer for you. My boss is just as good as your boss. Abram says, no better. He's like, well, he's not better than mine. Well, sir, enter Benvolio. Benvolio is Romeo's cousin. And Benvolio's name, Ben, as a Latin root, means good. That's why if you take Spanish, it's bien, is good, because these words all kind of pull from the same Latin roots. Benvolio means good voice. That's the way his name translates. He's going to be the person who's kind of here to talk sense through the majority of the play. So in comes Benvolio. And, Gregory sees it. He says, say better. And he sees somebody off in the background. He doesn't see Benvolio. He sees somebody else off in the background. He goes, say your guy's better. Say our guy's better. Here comes one of my master's kinsmen. He goes, in comes somebody that, like, I see another Capulet coming in. Go ahead and say our guy's better. So Samson says to Abram, yes, better, sir. He's like, my Capulet is better than Montague. And Abram says, you lie. So Samson says, draw if you be men. Gregory, remember thy washing blow. So he's like, all right, we're going to fight then. If you're a man, draw, son, back up. So they start to fight. And in comes Benvolio. And Benvolio pulls his sword and he's trying to get everybody to stop. Part, fools! Put up your swords, you know not what you do. And then in comes the guy that Gregory saw up here. In comes Tybalt. Tybalt is Juliet's cousin. So Tybalt is a high-level person in the Capulets. So in comes Tybalt. And he sees Benvolio. And Benvolio's, high-level person in the Montagues. And everybody else, like Gregor, Samson, Abram, all these guys are just servants. They're nobodies. But he walks in and sees Benvolio with his sword pulled out. And he looks at him and goes, what? Art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee, Benvolio, and look upon thy death. So he's like, what? You've got your sword pulled out to fight with the worthless servants? Turn around, Benvolio. Here's who's going to kill you. Benvolio says, I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword, or manage it to part these men with me. He's like, I've just got my sword out to try to make peace. He's like, please put up your sword, Tybalt, or at least use it to calm these people down. And Tybalt says, what? Drawn and talk of peace? I hate the word, as I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee. Have at thee, coward. So Tybalt's like, you've got your sword out and you're talking of peace? He's like, almost kind of like, you've got a gun pulled out and you're talking about being peaceful? And he's like, peace? I hate the word. I hate the word peace like I hate hell, like I hate every Montague, and like I hate you. Have at you, coward. Let's go. So now Benvolio and Tybalt are in the fight. And in come a bunch of the citizens, just normal people who are not Montagues and Capulets. And they come in with like spears and clubs, and they've got weapons. And the citizens yell, clubs, bills, partisans, strike, beat them down with the Capulets, down with the Montagues. So they're there to fight all these people, like to put this away and to try to stop this brawl that's happening in the middle of the street. So in comes old Capulet. This is the main man Capulet and his wife. And it says in his gown. So he's basically in like his pajamas. It's early in the morning. And he's come out into the street. What noise is this? Give me my long sword, ho. He's like, give me my sword. Like, give it to me. Come on. And Lady Capulet says, a crutch, a crutch. Why call you for a sword? He's like, you don't need a sword. You need a crutch. You're old. And then comes Montague and his wife. So all the main heads are out. And Capulet sees Montague, and Montague's got his sword out. And Capulet says, my sword, I say. Old Montague has come and flourishes his blade in spite of me. He's like, Montague's got his sword out, and he's just doing it to mock me. Give me my sword. And Montague sees him. Thou villain, Capulet, hold me not, let me go. And like his wife's holding him back, and he's like, let me go, stop me. There he is, I'm going to go get him. Lady Montague says, thou shalt not stir 1 foot to seek a foe. She's holding him back, like, you're not moving. You're not going to go get into this. So in comes Prince Aeschylus. And Prince Aeschylus is the main ruler of the town. So he comes rolling in and just talks to everybody, shouting, rebellious subjects, enemies to peace, profaners of this neighbor-stained steel. He's like yelling at them, rebels, you enemies. Like, you've turned your swords on each other. He's like, will they not hear? He's like, they're not listening to me. What? Ho, you men, you beasts, that quench the fire of your pernicious rage with purple fountains issuing from your veins. On pain of torture from those bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground and hear the sentence of your moved prince. So he finally gets them all down. He's like, you people, with all your rage and stop your fire and everything like that. He's like, throw your weapons to the ground and hear what I have to say. 3 civil brawls, bred of an airy word by the old Capulet and Montague, have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets and made Verona's ancient citizens cast by their grave beseeming ornaments to wield old partisans in hands as old, cantankered with peace to part your cankered hate. So he's like, 3 brawls, just started by like casual words from y'all. Y'all are walking down the street and say the wrong word to each other, and 3 times it's caused a fight. And now it's gotten so bad that the old people have went and got their old rusty spears and their old rusty clubs, and they're out here to try to stop it. If you ever disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace. So he's like, if you ever start a brawl again like this, you die. I will kill you. For this time, all the rest depart. You, Capulet, shall go along with me, and Montague, come you this afternoon to know our further pleasure on this case. To old Freetown, our common judgment place. Once more, on pain of death, all men depart. So he basically says, Capulet, you're coming with me. And Montague, later today, you come by and we're going to talk about this. And we're going to sort this whole thing out. And then he yells at them all again. He's like, once more, on pain of death, depart. Get out of here. So everybody exits except for Montague, Lady Montague, and Benvolio. And Montague asked Benvolio, because Benvolio was there. Montague came into it later. Benvolio's been there since almost the beginning of it. And he comes in and asks him, who set this ancient quarrel new a broach? Speak, nephew. Were you by when it began? He's like, well, who started all this? You. Were you here when it started? And Benvolio says, here were the servants of your adversary, and yours, close fighting ere I did approach. I drew to part them. In the instant came the fiery Tybalt with his sword prepared, which as he breathed defiance to my ears, he swung about his head and cut the winds, who, nothing hurt withal, hissed him in scorn. While we were interchanging thrusts and blows, came more and more, and fought on part and part, till the prince came, who parted either part. So he just gives a recap of what's happened. He's like, look, your servants were fighting with the Capulet servants. I saw it. I pulled my sword. I came up to stop them. In came Tybalt, the fiery Tybalt, hot-headed, hot-tempered. He's like, here he comes. He's got his sword out. We talked to each other, went back and forth a little bit. We started fighting. We were interchanging thrusts and blows. And then more and more people got into the fight. And then the prince came and kicked us all out. Lady Montague says, oh, where's Romeo? Saw you him today? Right glad I am he was not at this fray. She's like, oh, have you seen Romeo? Where's he at? I'm glad he wasn't here. And Benvolio says, madam, an hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden windows of the east, a troubled mind drove me to walk abroad, where underneath the grove of sycamore that westward broodeth from the city side, so early walking did I see your son. Towards him I made, but he was ware of me and stole into the covert of the winds. I, measuring his affectations of my own, which then most sought where most might not be found, being one too many by my weary self, pursued my humor, not pursuing his, and gladly shunned who gladly fled from me. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But Benvolio says, an hour before sunrise, I had a troubled mind, so I went for a walk. And over near the grove of sycamore trees that are on the western side of the city, I saw your son out walking too. I started to walk towards him, but he noticed me and he went into the woods to stay away from me. You know what? I had stuff going on my own, so I figured if he doesn't want to talk to me, I've got my stuff. I'm not going to talk to him. And Montague says, many a morning hath he been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs. But all so soon as the all-cheering sun should in the farthest east begin to draw, the shady curtains from Aurora's bed away from light steals my heavy sun. So he's explaining Romeo a little bit. He's like, yeah, many mornings my son has been seen out walking around with tears augmenting the fresh morning dew. Augmenting means adding to. So he's out there with tears, and his tears are adding to the wetness that's on the ground. And he's adding more clouds to the morning with all the deep sighs that he's giving. And as soon as the sun rises, he shades he pulls his curtains and goes into his room. And in the private of his chamber pins himself, shuts up his windows, and locks fair daylight out, and makes himself an artificial night. Black and portentous must this humor prove, unless good counsel may the cause remove. So he's like, yeah, he goes into his room, shuts all the doors, shuts all the windows, turns his room into night, and just sits there and sulks and, is emo. And hopefully we can figure something out if we can fix what's bothering it. And Benvolio says, my noble uncle, do you know the cause? Montague says, neither know it nor can learn it from him. So he's like, do you know what's wrong with him? And he's like, I don't know, and he won't tell me. Have you importuned him by any means? Well, it's like, have you done what you can to try to see if you can figure him out? Both by myself and many other friends, but he, his own affection's counselor, is to himself. I will not say how true, but to himself so secret and so close, so far from sounding and discovery, as is the bud bit with the envious worm, ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air, or dedicate his beauty to the same. Could we but learn from whence his sorrows grow, we would as willingly give cure as know. He's like, I don't know. I've had our friends try to talk to him. I've tried to talk to him. He keeps to himself. He wants to be his own counselor, his own, confidant, but I don't know whether that's a good idea or not. I just wish we could know what's wrong with him. If we can know what's wrong with him, we would gladly fix it. And in comes Romeo. We see him off in the background. He comes walking into the scene. Benvolio, see where he comes. So please you step aside. I'll know his grievance, or be much denied. So he tells them, he's like, look, I see him. You know what? Y'all go home. I will talk to him. And I'll either know what's wrong with him or he's going to have to just tell me because I'm going to ask him over and over. And Montague says, I would that thou wert so happy by thy stay to hear true shrift. Come, madam, let's away. And they leave. He's like, I hope you're lucky enough to understand what's going on. You know, he's like, so he tells his wife, come on, let's go away. All right, so that takes me to about 25 minutes. We're going to meet Romeo here in the next little bit. I'm going to go ahead and make that into, I'll add that into another video. But that's what we've got so far. So if y'all have any questions, let me know. As always, I'm at kdalton@gilesc12.net. Send me any questions that you have. I'm not putting an assignment on this one yet. I'm not going to give you another assignment until we get to the end of scene 2. Then you'll have an assignment for both scene 1 and scene 2. Scene 1, we're going to meet Romeo. Scene 2, we're going to meet Juliet and kind of know some of the background information with them. So once we meet both of them, I'll give you another assignment. Until then, stay safe. Everybody take care, and I'll see you later.